Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in today we're going to continue a little mini series that we're doing, and I'm going to be ranking Fortnite guns again, and this time we're going to be doing the assault rifles. Fortnite has had many different assault rifles in the history of the game, and I'm going to be much like the shotguns, I'm going to be looking at it from a casual and a competitive standpoint, and also basically my personal experience and opinion on using them. One thing before we jump into the tier list, be sure to like and subscribe. It greatly helps me a lot. I'd much appreciate it. And uh, I officially ordered my new gaming PC. Streams coming in March, the beginning of March. Anyway, let's get on into the tier list. Alright, guys, this tier list is pretty similar to the shotguns tier list. We have the S category, which means the best ARs, the god tier ARs, the broken ARs. We have the A tier, which means the overall very good ARs. We have the B tier, which means overall decent, good, solid ARs. We have the C tier, which means average, kind of bad ARs, just overall okay. And then D tier, which means the ARs that are absolutely garbage. I just had a voice crack and a burp at the same time, sorry. D tier means garbage, you know the deal. Alright, let's get on into the first AR, which is the Scar. And the normal AR is right here. Perfect. Yeah, the Scar is definitely an A tier AR. It is overall a good AR. It's a fan favorite. Unfortunately, it was removed from the game in Chapter 3. Bring back the Scar. It's so good for the game, both casually and competitively. And it's always been a staple in Fortnite history. And then its normal counterpart, just gonna throw it in B. It's your simple AR, it's your bread and butter, it's your 30 bullets, fully automatic AR. You can't go wrong with it. Oh, reliable, baby. Now up next we have the burst ARs. Alright, this is a little bit more interesting. We have the AUG, or just the epic and legendary burst AR. This thing, in my opinion, is A tier. This is one of my favorite ARs. I actually kind of prefer it over the Scar at sometimes. I play on controllers, so I mean I have aim assist, obviously, but that's a different topic for a different day. As for the lower tier burst, though, I'm just gonna actually put this in C tier. I don't really think this is that viable. It's okay off spawn, but you don't want it anything past mid game. So that's my standpoint on the burst ARs. Up next, we've got a weird one. It's the exotic burst pulse rifle. This was in the game during Chapter 2, Season 7, and I bought it one time. It wasn't bad. Like, when you ADS with it, it would fire two shots that dealt like 40 damage or something. And then if you hip fired, it's still automatic. I'll throw it in B tier since it's an exotic. You have to buy it. It is pretty pricey with gold. But overall, it was a pretty good gun. So I'll just put it in B tier. I don't really have a lot of memories with it. It's kind of forgotten. Up next, we've got the combat AR. This thing was in the game for a brief time at the end of Chapter 2. I'm not gonna lie, I was not a huge fan of it. Medium to long range, this thing was terrible, but up close range, it was actually really decent. It shredded close range. I don't like the kick on it. I don't like the recoil on it. The recoil is what killed it. If it did not have any recoil, almost be this would be pretty broken. But I would just was not a fan of this gun. There's really no need to bring it back for casually or competitively either. Nah. Up next, we have the Star Wars rifle. This game is only in the game. This thing is only in the game sometimes. I'm just gonna put it D tier. It's barely in the game. It's only in the game with like Star Wars events or whatever. Whenever I use it, it doesn't even have first shot accuracy either. Just who cares? D tier. Up next, we have the Mythic MK7. This is dropped by the Foundation or the Rock at the Sanctuary on the current Chapter 3 map. I'm actually going to go ahead and take the normal MK7 up here as well. I'm going to rank the normal one first. The normal MK7, definitely A tier. I think it's definitely an A tier gun. This thing is broken with aim assist. It's one of the best guns in the game right now. I'm not putting it S tier because that's where this mythic one belongs. This mythic one has an insanely fast fire rate, does a ton of damage. This thing might be the best AR of all time. I'm not even kidding. It's like this thing's broken. Both broken guns. I think they need to nerf them a little bit. I don't mind it being in the game, both casually and competitively, but I don't care. This thing's broken. I enjoy using it. Now up next we have the heavy ARs. Alright. This is a little interesting. I'm gonna do the higher tier one first. This one is B tier for me. The epic and legendary heavy AR is one that's kind of overlooked. It's solid, it does decent damage. It's kind of inaccurate though. And then this lower tier one for me is C tier. It's just an off spawn AR, man. I'd much rather take an AUG or a Scar over a heavy AR. So I don't think there's really no need for it to be in the game. Up next, we've got the infantry rifles. All right, this is the epic and legendary one. This is the gray, green, and blue one. Perfect. All right, this one right here, I'm gonna put in A tier. This thing has a 2 times headshot multiplier, and I think the legendary one does like 88 headshots. So you can 3-tap someone with this thing. This thing is really good for mouse and keyboard players. It's all controller players, it's a little bit harder to use, but it's overall a very good gun. And this one right here, I'm just gonna put in B tier, man. Infantry rifle is a good long range rifle, and I think it actually is decent for competitive. I think they need to nerf the headshot multiplier. Up next, we've got the makeshift rifle. This was during the god awful Chapter 2 Season 6 Primal season. This thing didn't have first shot accuracy, and the damage was pretty weak. This thing is garbage. Like, no one cared about running it. You'd use it off spawn and then drop it. Like, it's garbage. Up next, we've got the Mythic Heavy AR. And my dogs are barking. Okay. We got the Mythic one. I'm gonna put this in B tier as well. This thing just fired a little bit faster than the normal heavy AR, and it's the damage was about the same. It was only a little bit more. Nothing really special. It was dropped by Meowscles in the agency season, which in my opinion was my favorite season ever. Yeah, it was pretty solid. Up next, we've got Ocean's Burst AR. This is the one that had 30 bullets. It was 2-shot burst, and it was in Chapter 2, Season 3, dropped by Ocean. I think this is an A tier AR. It's not really much of a difference from these two. This one just did slightly more damage, and I think the range on this one was a little bit better. But overall an A tier AR. I enjoyed using it whenever I took out Ocean, and I'd use that in the bottomless chug jug, so it was pretty good. All right, next we have an OG one. We have one that takes us back to Chapter 1 and its nostalgia. We have the OG Burst AR. It was triple burst back in the day. I don't back in the OG days, I used to run the blue burst of this thing, and then of course the FAMAS, this thing right here was epic and legendary at the time. I'm just gonna put this C tier for the nostalgia. It was not a bad assault rifle, but the normal one just it outclassed it in every way. But the blue one was pretty good back in the OG days. Let me know if y'all what season y'all started and if you use this thing because it was pretty okay. I mean, it's good for the memories. Up next, we've got the Primal Rifle. This is gonna stir up some controversy a little bit. I don't think this thing is trash. I don't think it's trash at all. But I'm between B and C for this one because I used it. It does good damage, but it's a little bit inaccurate. I'll go C. I'll go C. And I see the Mythic one right here. I'm gonna put both of those in C tier. It's not bad enough to be in D tier, but it's a primal rifle. It's just forget that this was ever in the game. The primal season. Let's just all collectively agree, as in the Fortnite community, to just forget about the primal season. It was one of the worst seasons ever. But the primal rifle was decent. It was okay. Up next, we've got the pulse rifle, the normal one. This thing, I'm actually going to put this thing in. I'm actually going to put it in A tier. I'll give it the A tier. I know it's kind of ridiculous since this exotic one is kind of a better version of it, but it's exotic. I mean, you have to buy this one, and no one really ever used it. Same thing for the mythic one. This also goes in A tier. It's a lot like the Stark Industries rifle, except it was just a weaker version of it. I think it was a very good rifle during the alien season. Uh, I think it did a good amount of damage, but it didn't receive the same amount of love that the Stark rifle did. I think the Scar just and AUG just outclassed it. But overall, it's a very good weapon. Up next, we have the Ranger AR. This is a new AR added in Chapter 3, and I'm gonna be honest, I think it's actually B tier. Some people think this thing is absolute trash. It got a damage buff and it got an accuracy buff. This thing is actually B tier. I think it's really just a better version of the heavy AR. It's kind of bad long range. It's kind of bad close range. This thing is a medium range AR. If you can hit your shots, it does some pretty good damage. And overall, I think it's pretty good for the meta, both casually and competitively. I think it'll be here to stay. I don't mind it being in the game. I have respect for the Ranger AR. It just sucks that the MK7 is in the game because I'd much rather run one of those. Up next, we've got the scoped ARs. Alright, we have the epic and legendary one and the green and blue one. This thing's C tier. The epic and legendary one is, and this one's D tier. Scoped ARs, they really don't have a good use in the game, especially with guns like the infantry rifles and the sniper and all the snipers and bows in the game. This thing, there's really no point in using one anymore. And it's I liked it for the nostalgia. I remember when it used to shoot very, very fast back in the day. I really wish they brought that back because this thing would actually be viable. But this thing, it's lost. It's just lost in the unknown of nothingness. This thing is just forgotten, and there's really no point in having it in the game at all. The purple and gold one's not bad though. It does decent damage. Up next, we've got the sideways rifle. Okay, this was during Chapter 2 season. This is the end of Chapter 2. I'm gonna put it D tier. I didn't ever really use this thing, and from what I've heard, it's very clunky. It does have like a charge mechanic, I think, but it did decent damage. But you'd much rather use a regular AR. This thing was just, it's a sideways rifle. It's clunky. It's weird. Just get out of here. Up next, we have the Mythic Scar from the Agency season. This was dropped by Sky, the Mythic boss, at the Shark. To me, this thing is an S tier AR. It's just a faster firing Scar, and I think it was very broken in its time. I'd run this, a gold pump, and the Midas drum gun along with the grappler and whatever heals I had. It was insanely broken. That thing was also very. That season was a lot of spray meta with, and this Sky's Mythic AR was leading the charge. Don't ever bring this back, by the way, Fortnite, especially in competitive. I don't mind if you bring this back in casual, but just never bring this back in competitive. It's too broken. Up next, we have Sloan's Mythic AUG. This thing is different from Ocean's because this thing, it has less bullets, but it actually fires faster, and I think it does a little bit more damage. Personally, when I used it, I loved it because it would fire faster, and especially with a controller. As a controller player like myself, and with aim assist and everything, I think the faster firing helped me out a lot. Personally, for me, this is a kind of a hot take, but I think the Sloan Mythic version of the AUG, in my opinion, is S tier. I think it's very good, and the AUG in general and the burst ARs, in my opinion, should come back to the game, in my opinion. I think it's both good casually and competitively. It can stay as 2 bursts. I love 3 bursts to come back. But personally, I think the AUG is in a good spot how it is. The Sloan's Burst had a lot of good memories with that. Up next, we have the Stark Industries rifle. This was in Chapter 2, Season 4 with the Marvel season. I'm not gonna lie, every time I drop Stark Industries or that big giant place that was on this big giant piece of Earth, I forgot what it was called. I'd land Stark in solos. When I played solos during the Marvel season, I'd rolled out with like a gold pump and one of these or a scar every time. And this thing is just broken. You can hip fire it. It does really good damage. And you can also ADS with it. This thing does insane damage ADS. It did more damage than the pulse rifle. To me, I think it's a very good S tier gun. I don't actually mind it in competitive. It actually was not that bad for competitive. Up next we have the suppressed AR. I'm indifferent about this one because this thing sometimes hits shots like really well, but sometimes it also just you either hit all of your shots or you miss all of them. I don't know about this gun, man. I actually really don't know. I'll throw it in B tier. It's really not that bad, but it's not really the best. It's overall just like it's fine. It's decent. I don't mind it. There's really no point in it being in the game considering the scar and the AUG and all that, but the suppressed AR is just meh. It's fine. Up next, we have the tack AR. This thing is also B tier for me. It's a good shorter ranged AR and a little bit faster firing AR. Competitively, I don't. It's okay for it to be in competitive. It really doesn't matter. But overall, it was good back in the day in Chapter 1. So I'll give it its respect there. I like the tack AR. And finally, we have one of the OG ARs from Chapter 1 that hasn't been in the game since, the thermal scoped AR. I'm just gonna throw it in C tier. It is a scoped AR. It did decent damage. It was basically this AR right here with thermal vision. I'll give it C tier. Not that special. It was okay. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for the end of today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'm gonna continue this mini series. Uh, I don't know which gun category I should do next. I'm probably going to do either SMGs and spray weapons, or I'm going to do snipers. I'll try to figure that out. But anyway, guys, hope y'all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.